shortly. He's putting up quite a fight actually, but that's not unusual. I mean, most E46s, to be honest, have got some form of corrosion under them, and specifically on fixings and things like that. So we've got to remember this car is actually still 15 years old, and some of the oldest E46s out there, even M3s, are sort of nudging 20 years old at the moment. So lots of things get corroded and put up, like I say, a fight. Some things need to be heated up to release that threaded connection if it's all seized and corroded, much like this example here on the exhaust hangers on the back left, for example, where these studs and nuts have been corroded and probably not been off in the car's history. Some of them are not moving. Look how round that nut is, for example. The stud is this piece coming out of the chassis of the floor, and this is the nut, which is almost round now, where it's just bound together. That's an example of what it probably was look like. You can still see a little bit of hex shape on that nut, for example. And then here's one which has started coming undone, but it's gone rock solid, because what's happening is, even with wire wheeling and cleaning the corrosion off of the stud, it's got corrosion trapped inside, so it's dragging itself, resisting and changing the direction of the pitch of the thread, likely with corrosion coming through. And the more resistance that gives, the more harder you turn that sort of thing, the more likely it is the stud's going to snap out of the floor. So it's probably easier at this stage, like we've done, to take the center bolts out to release the exhaust. Now we've got better eyeballs and hand areas to work. We can bring a heat induction machine in to try and heat that female nut, try and break that connection, so then we can undo it and save the studs that are in the chassis. So that's just one example of certain areas that need specialist attention, very similar to some of the components that we've been taking off, like the rear axle, and disassembling that piece by piece. Now if you look at the underside of the chassis, it looks in very good order, which is true. There are obviously dirt areas and grease sections and some aftermarket spray where somebody's changed the brake pipes, but actually the chassis is quite bright in many locations, and it's quite good to see, specifically behind areas that have been covered with under trays or heat shielding. All these areas are great. They're going to clean up really easy. The areas that are harder to clean up are obviously the dirty areas that have got greases, dry dirt, and then you've got this nasty black sticky stuff, which I don't know why, but lots of people seem to, specifically MOT testers for some reason. No offense to any MOT testers out there, but it is a quick fix to cover the brake pipes in that sort of sticky glue, but never really helps anybody trying to restore the car later on. Certain brackets are struggling, like the nasty one on the battery box tray, never escapes. Bear in mind, this is a 2006 E46 M3 with 54,000 miles on. Look on the other side, that's been protected by heat shields and under trays, and it looks brand new. You'd be happy if things came out like that all the way over the car, but it's not that simple. Areas that haven't been protected are absolutely covered in corrosion, and that's why this owner is wanting to get it sorted, quite rightly so, because it's putting up a fight with us just taking things apart, let alone any maintenance that needs to happen in the car's future. So getting on top of it and doing a restoration is certainly one amazing way to do things. Tackle them all at once. Brake pipe brackets, fuel tank strap brackets. We're going to be replacing the trailing arm pockets, I think, on this one. We're going for the front fuel tank strap brackets with the new Riedisch Motorsport ones, taking care of all that nasty corrosion we find growing underneath the seam sealer, the dangerous section of corrosion, which is the growth underneath sealer, where you can't see what's happening, and you've got to start picking it all apart to try and find out where the corrosion finishes, and hope it's just surface, and hope it hasn't gone underneath layers. That's an example of a panel layer, one that overlaps another one, and what you don't want is corrosion getting underneath those layers, because then it's hard to get to, because you have to take panels apart. We'll have that here, I'm sure, where we've got a 3-layer connection. That's likely to be present, so that will need specialist work and treatments. Similar thing with the left hand side as well. Not so bad on this side. That bracket's okay, this one's horrible, and that will definitely be replaced. Same with the trailing arm pocket up in there, and the front fuel tank strap bracket. We'll see more of the corrosion once we degrease the car and get rid of all the loose dirt and things, but you can see this is seamed corrosion trapped underneath seams that's growing in there, for example. That needs to be dealt with. We're slowly going through the bits that we take off the car and separating them into pieces. So it's all the bushes and ball joints and wheel bearings, taking those apart. We've got the front subframe, the spare one that the owner supplied. So we've got the rear subframe separated. The trailing arms are just being separated at the moment. So many things connect and hang off the subframe, the rear trailing arms. Quite a lot in there. You've got the front control arm bushes. You've got the lower, this is upside down at the moment, so you've got the lower ball joint, you've got the upper ball joint, you've got the backing plate, you've got the hub, wheel bearing, spring clip, all the handbrake mechanism assembly, brake calipers, obviously discs, carrier, things like that. So loads of pieces in there as well. We've got the calipers are going off for refurb as well. The front upper rear control arms, bushes, only a pair of bushes, and those have been pressed out. Anti-roll bars, V-brace, rear anti-roll bar brackets, differential we're going to be overhauling as well, and the exhaust we're doing. So lots to get on with. Plastics we've been separating as well. They're going to be replaced, a lot of those, because they're scratched and scuffed and got tons of wax that's all over them. Prop shaft, we're going to check on that. Centre bearing seems a bit loose, so that'll probably be replaced. Drive shafts have already had some work, but we're going to see what needs doing, if anything, in there. V-brace is obviously going to be replaced. Fuel pipes, the stainless steel ones, they should clean up fine, never anything wrong with those. And all the heat shielding we're going to be replacing as well. The centre ones, the lower ones, and the ones that go up to the front control arm that go past the traditional routing, because we're going to be doing a complete underside restoration on this as well. So we're not just stopping centre bound, we're going into the front. So lots of things to get on with, and stage one is still underway.